Story 1. I discovered my medical records. My family has been lying to me. I've recently discovered a horrific truth about myself that has kept me confined to my bedroom for the last week. A truth that changed the trajectory of my life and irreversibly altered my brain. And to think it was just so accidental. Just one small incident, and I was forced to face the brunt of reality. For years, I went about my life as though nothing was wrong. I didn't feel any different than anyone else. I didn't see myself as anything more than just another teenager, managing his way through the murky waters of high school. I did struggle finding friends, though. That was a big weakness of mine. I'd greet people offhandedly in the hallways, and they'd greet me back, often through cold stares, but I could never manage finding a group that I really fit into. What helped me tremendously during those lonely times was my vibrant home life. I could not have asked for better parents. My mother worked as an accountant, and my father had invested a ton into Apple before it really became the corporate giant that it is today. Mom worked from home for the most part, and Dad had retired the minute he made his first 10 million. My mother didn't work because she had to, she just liked to work. She liked knowing that she served a purpose other than being my dad's trophy wife. She hated being referred to as that. A trophy wife, she'd say. Such an outdated term. She never let her disdain show, however. She'd simply smile wider, flashing her beautifully white teeth, before laughing and thanking the person for the compliment, her fist balled tightly at her side. And before you even think about it, yes, my father loved my mother. They were soulmates. She was the woman who had his heart and he had hers. Though our house was bigger, the love remained the same. Writing this now, it feels like my brain is just covering for me. I know what I know, and I just can't force myself to believe what I know isn't real. My parents were very attentive. Not helicopter parents, but caring parents. They were there for me when I needed them most. I can't tell you how many times I'd come home from a long day at school only to find my dad in the kitchen, whipping up some homemade supper, while my mom lay curled up on the couch, knitting the same scarf as always as she waited for me to tell her about my day. Dad brought the food, and Mom brought the comfort, and together we'd sit for hours while I rambled on about what was bothering me. Together we'd dissect the problem, find the solution, and by the end I'd feel brand new. Much stress for such a young boy, Mom would sigh. You need to learn to relax, sweetie. Dad would agree, his favorite phrase being, all things pass, Donovan, which he'd announce like a mantra before picking a movie for us to watch, while Mom made hot tea for each of us. Mom's tea always made me feel better, no matter how hard a day I had been having. Made with love and a special secret ingredient that only your dad knows about, she'd slyly announce with a wink to my father, who'd flash her smile from his spot on the sofa. As high school came to an end, and it was time to choose a real career path, I had no other job in mind other than firefighting. I loved the idea of doing work that mattered, helping people when they were in dire need. Little did I know, this decision would become the one that unraveled my mind piece by piece. You see, there are a few things you need to join the force, one of them being your medical records. Simple enough, right? My parents disagreed. They more than disagreed. They discouraged me from even wanting to join. From the moment they found out that joining meant sharing my medical records, they were completely against my plan. I found that comfort came less and less these days. Mom stopped knitting. Dad stopped cooking. We hardly spent any time together at all. One thing that never changed, however, as though a small gesture of hope, was that my mother continued to make my tea. She'd either hand it to me rudely, or I'd awake to find it sitting on my nightstand. Other than that, though, it felt like my parents were slowly turning their backs on me. It's not like I wouldn't ask them to support me. I'd pretty much beg them for assurance and help with my mental state. It was as though they ignored me every single time. You're grown now, Donovan. You can figure this out yourself. Your father and I want no part in it. My mom would taunt. Coldly we argued. A lot more than we'd ever done before. It really tore me apart to feel such intense coldness coming from someone who was as warm as my mother. Dad was no different. He just seemed to stop caring. As if my decision to join the fire department was a betrayal of him. We have more money than you could count in a lifetime, son. Why do you want to do something as grueling as firefighting? I could make a call and have you in Harvard like that, he pressed, punctuating his last word with a snap of his fingers. It's work that matters, Dad. I want to help people, I want to be good. I don't know why you and Mom don't understand that. He looked at me like I had just slapped him in the face before marching upstairs without another word. As days dragged on, what had started as small gestures of disapproval soon turned into snarls of malice and disgust. After weeks of insults and cruelties hurled at me by both my mom and dad, Everything culminated in one event where my dad led me to the garage. Locking the door behind him, he got into his Mercedes and started the engine. He revved the car 4 or 5 times, and soon the garage became filled with carbon monoxide gas. The entire time while I pounded on the window, begging him to stop, he just sat there, stone-faced, before cracking his window and teasing, as calm as could be, "Call the fire department. See if they'll come save you." Then rolled the window back up and revved the engine a few more times. I could feel my vision beginning to swim, and I was on the verge of passing out when the garage door flung open and Mom pulled me into the house. She left me lying on the floor as she fanned me with some of her accountant papers while I struggled to recover. Once my vision had gone back to normal and I could actually breathe again, Mom leaned in close and whispered, "Now did the fire department save you, or did your mother?" And as quickly as she appeared, she disappeared back upstairs to her office. Dad followed swiftly behind her, stepping over me like I was trash before trotting up the stairs without so much as glancing at me. This was the moment I made my decision to leave home. I didn't care how happy we once were. Happiness seemed foreign now. Safety seemed foreign now. I was going to get into the department whether they liked it or not, and I was going to be gone before they even got the chance to realize it. I stood to my feet and dusted myself off, mentally preparing to go upstairs to pack my things. I'd live out of my car if I had to. As I climbed the stairs at the top, I was greeted by my mother and father. They looked down on me, wordlessly, disappointingly, before shaking their heads and returning to their bedroom in unison. Whatever, I packed a week's worth of clothes, enough to get away for a while and clear my head before coming back for the rest. As I walked out my front door, I glanced over my shoulder for one last look at the house before I completely separated it from my heart. Dad looked at me. He had a mixture of sadness, regret, and sorrow on his face as he said his goodbyes. "Seeing your son was all he could manage. That's all I got from the man I once looked up to, the man who had just attempted to murder me in the garage. And so I left. I left for the very last time. Well, for the last time in which I'd felt whole, at least. The drive to the medical center was an extremely emotional one. It was as if I could hear my parents' voices. Their I love yous, Mom's words of reassurance, and Dad's mantra. They all floated around in my head and caused my eyes to fill with tears. By the time I'd reached the medical center, I was a blubbering mess and had to clean myself up in the parking lot before going inside. I provided the front desk lady with my social security number, and I waited for her to return with my records. I took some comfort in knowing that I was one step closer to my dream, despite how my parents felt. But the collapse of my family weighed heavily on my chest. With a stoic expression, the lady returned and slid the papers to me along with my social security card. As I sat in my car reading through the paperwork, I could feel the breath in my lungs evaporate while my heart seemed to stop beating. I rushed home, tears staining my cheeks and my mind racing at 1,000,000 miles a minute. I swung the front door open and screamed for my parents in a broken voice, but the house remained quiet. I raced upstairs, praying to God that they would be in their bedroom. But what I found instead was an empty room, void of any furniture, not even a bed. In the living room, I found my mom's scarf, still sitting in her place on the sofa, still unfinished. In the kitchen, right by the tea kettle, was what made me fall to my knees and wail in sheer agony. My parents weren't here. They'd never been here. I had been experiencing an excruciating slip, and this little orange bottle of haloperidol proved it. My parents are dead. They died tragically when I was 17, and I had to listen to their screams of pain as they were roasted alive in a house fire at a party they were attending. My dad's retirement party, which had been thrown at a friend's house. I had been waiting outside after my mom assured me that they'd be leaving here in a few minutes. Before the fire broke out, trapping all 20 of the guests inside. I wanted to help. I wanted to free them from the inferno, but I was too weak. I couldn't even get near the flames. Remorse, dread, and the terrifying realization that I had been living a lie all hit me at once like a freight train from hell. And that's why I'm here, locked away in this bedroom. I can't cope with leaving right now. But I think I'm getting better. I truly believe that I'll be on the rise eventually. But for now, I just want to lie here. Alone. As I said, it's been about a week. A week of nothing but darkness and mopping for me, however, as I'm writing this. I believe that I smell that sweet aroma of my mother's tea, freshly brewing in my kitchen. And I think I'm gonna go see if she'll pour me a glass. Story number 2. My Uber horror story. I live out in a small town, but don't drive. Earlier this year, I worked in the next town over at a fast food place. During spring and summer, I could ride my e-bike to and from. During winter though, I'd take the bus to work and take an Uber home when I'd need an Uber. Because it's a small town, about 20k ppl, there aren't many drivers at midnight when I get off work. So I'd book before I start my shift, 10-11 HRS before pickup. Worked like a charm and was never left stranded. Even in blizzard conditions, drivers would still show up. Until one day my driver didn't. Did it the same as always, booked before I went on shift, saw that a driver accepted the ride on my first break, and thought nothing of it. Midnight rolls around, everything is shut down, turned off, I've got all my stuff. So I close the door and call the number to let them know to turn the alarm on, walk around to the front, and my ride isn't there, check my phone, driver cancelled, and I knew I wouldn't get another this late at night. And I can't afford a taxi until the auth clears or I get paid at 6 am, and my phone is dying very quickly. This was the oh crap moment. It was the coldest day of the year, with feels like temps around degrees C, with wind gusts up to 70 km/h off the lake. Cold enough to give exposed skin frostbite in a few minutes. And I wasn't expecting to be out in that for more than a few minutes. As to say, I was not dressed to be outside very long. All I had was a winter hat, my fast food uniform, a sweater, a jacket, a thin neck cover I used as a mask, and non-insulated cowboy boots. And all I could do to keep out of the wind was to tuck up against a wall. My phone didn't last long, and I wasn't able to get a hold of anyone. So I decided I'd try to walk to the fire station and try to take shelter or get help or something there, but only made it a block before I turned back because of the wind. Stood in front of the restaurant doing jumping jacks and packing to try and stay warm, then decided I'd walk with the wind to the bus stop that has a heated shelter and is in front of a Tim Hortons that opens at 4 am. I figured it was around 1 am at this point. 3 HRS in a heated shelter seemed doable. Then I can go inside and wait for the first bus back home at 6 am. Walked and made it over to the bus stop, went inside, turned the heater on, and that did absolutely nothing to help. I was still packing around, doing jumping jacks, just anything to stay moving and stay warm. But it was super drafty, so after a while, just before 3 am, I couldn't feel my hands or feet and was violently shivering. So I decided to use the emergency bit of battery on my phone to call 911. Wasn't able to say anything after the dispatcher picked up before my phone died again. But they got my GPS ping and 2 cops showed up and got me in the car, brought me to the paramedics station to get checked out, and they just told me to take a long room temperature bath, and the cops drove me home. I understand it's not Uber's fault that the driver cancelled, but that's still their contractor, and knowing that he didn't so much as get a talking to after that annoys me. It's not even like the weather was bad, it wasn't snowing, the roads were clear, it was just extremely cold and windy. If you can't do the ride or do want the ride, don't accept it. Just to add insult to injury, Uber tried to refund me with Uber credit. Even after explaining to them what happened and asking for my money back in Canadian dollars, not Uber credits, they still screwed me around and tried to get me to accept the credits, while knowing full well what happened. I did eventually get my real money back. I just don't appreciate being screwed around on a good day, never mind after dealing with that. Story number 3, AITAH, for not including my aunt's friend in my sister's small birthday. My sister wants a very small, low-pressure birthday because it's her first one since our mom died. Our aunt cousin is upset that we aren't including a man she sees as a surrogate son, even though we've only recently met him, and my sister has recently become uncomfortable around him for reasons. We've said we're happy to do something separate that includes him, because we know my aunt cares about him, but my aunt keeps framing this one small plan as us cruelly excluding him and is pressuring my sister about it, plus updates TLDR. We are removing them from our lives, except she's tied together with Dad legally over property. Also, Paul got arrested, and all the red flags proved legit. May need you to take legal action. The details. I'll 33 try to keep this as clear as possible because there's a lot of family history here. My sister 38, we'll call her Megan, has a birthday coming up. She asked me to plan it and made her wishes clear. This is her first birthday since our mom died, and it falls on a work day, so she wants something very small and low pressure on an adjacent day. The plan was just Megan, me, our dad 65, and our aunt/cousin 80, who we'll call Linda. Linda is technically my mom's cousin, but she has been treated like close immediate family our whole lives. The issue is Linda wants to include Paul, 52, a man she has emotionally adopted as a son. Paul was an old friend of Linda's late son. Linda has lost both of her sons. Her eldest died earlier this year, and her younger son died by suicide years ago. I do have compassion for that. We grew up like close cousins. I miss him dearly. I genuinely think Linda is using Paul as a surrogate for the sons she has lost, which makes this more emotionally loaded for her. Paul came into our lives after leaving an abusive situation, and we have tried to be kind and welcoming to him because he matters to Linda. I even baked him a birthday cake recently, and we've included him in things before. I don't know him, but I've been trying to get to know him. He will never replace my cousin, but I was happy to have a new friend. Love is not a finite thing. There's always room for more, but we do not know him well. My sister has spoken to him some over the phone, but they are not lifelong best friends or anything like that. Also, my sister has trauma around men making things sexual or pressuring her, and she has recently become uncomfortable around Paul. I don't want to go into every detail, but there were enough boundary concerns that Megan does not want him at this specific birthday plan or to be left alone with him ever again. No, he did not fully cross a line, but he towed those lines all night. That was enough for a new boundary to need to be set. One issue that made me, personally, uncomfortable was that Paul previously had birthday plans with both Megan and me, then decided he wanted to change those plans, so I was no longer included. I did not care that he wanted to spend time with Megan separately. Having separate events is normal, and having independent friendships is healthy. What bothered me was that he changed pre-existing plans that included me instead of making separate plans with her for another time. Then that same night he excluded me. My sister's boundaries were tested. That's not okay, but my sister felt there might have been miscommunication, so he's arm's length, not persona non grata. For some reason, she didn't want to tell my aunt this, so I'm respecting that. She doesn't want to upset her for Megan's birthday. We are not saying Paul can never be included. We have said multiple times that we can do something separate that includes him. We just want this one birthday plan to stay small. Linda is taking this as us excluding Paul and hurting him. When I explained that the plan was just Megan, me, Dad, and Linda, she replied with, "Then without me it will be even smaller." She also said, "He is here. I can't exclude him without his knowing. I guess that means we are both out. Just don't have it here or he'll know." For context, he's currently sleeping on her and my dad's couch. Not that Dad had any say in the matter according to her. When she asked him his thoughts, he said he was uncomfortable with a stranger in his space. She called him all kinds of names and told him how cruel he was and that he was family. None of us had met this man before then. Dad didn't tell her he couldn't stay. He gave her the opinion she explicitly asked him for. But I digress. She also messaged Megan directly asking, "You don't want Paul at your party," even though Megan had already said she wanted the birthday small because it is her first one without our mom. Megan told her that I was helping make the plans and that she just wanted something small and low pressure because of grief and work. She also said she would be happy to have a future event that includes everyone, family and friends. Lindella told me how cruel I was to exclude someone, and I thought you were better than that. That is one of her favorite lines my whole life. She also told me he's your cousin. If he's not in the immediate family, I guess I'm not family either. I guess I'm not family is another one of her old and favored lines. I tried to be calm and told Linda, "I understand you're upset, but I don't think it's fair to frame this as me trying to hurt someone. I've been clear that we'll plan something separate that includes him, but this is Megan's first birthday since Mom died, and this birthday plan is staying small." Linda keeps framing it as if we are rejecting Paul entirely, when that is not what is happening. We are only saying that one small birthday plan does not include him. Some extra context: Linda has a history of making family events about her feelings, including the day my mom died, and accusing me of controlling Megan whenever I disagree with her or don't let her pressure Megan. I'm trying very hard not to hurt Linda because I know Paul means a lot to her and I know she is grieving. I also respect that Paul has been through a lot. But I also don't think her grief means Megan has to include a man she feels uncomfortable around at her own birthday. Besides, I'm pretty sure she hasn't even asked Paul what he thinks. Everyone is afraid he'll be upset, but I think he'd understand separate events. I've been asked not to mention it to him by both Megan and Linda. I feel like that would solve the problem, but if I'm going to enforce the boundaries I've set with my aunt and insist she respect boundaries set by my sister, I need to respect boundaries set by both of them. It's not up to me to agree or disagree with someone's boundaries. So AITAH for keeping my sister's birthday plans small and not including Paul, even though Linda sees him as family and we don't. A little update. My sister has agreed to ask him if he's cool with him being included for a later event instead. No answer yet. Second update. After reading your comments, Megan is seeing that it's best to limit contact. She stopped replying to Linda, who continues to message guilt-trippy things. Keep it as small as you like. Come get your presents when you want to. Megan has chosen not to reply. Third update. She had access to one of my streaming services and made Paul a profile. We've decided to throw my sister a big party and Linda has been entirely uninvited from all functions. She doesn't yet know that we've changed our holiday plans to go see some of my dad's side of the family for the winter holidays. Final update. A few people told me very bluntly that we needed to stop letting Linda make this about herself, and well, she kind of proved the point. For my sister's actual birthday, my dad, my sister, and I had cake together the day before. Then my sister and I had a nice dinner, just the two of us. The morning of her birthday, my dad came over and made her bacon and eggs like he used to when we were kids. It was small, calm, and exactly the kind of low-pressure bonding thing my sister wanted. When my dad was heading out the door to head over to our place, Linda asked, "You going to the party?" And she asked him to bring Megan the gifts from her. So far, so good. Dad told her, "No, there isn't going to be one. I'm just going over to help the girls with some things." Then said something along the lines of, "Well, have fun, I'm calling an ambulance." I don't feel good, and the ambulance gets me seen sooner. For context, this is a very familiar pattern with Linda. Anytime someone leaves town, she suddenly needs the ER. Anytime anyone makes plans without her, she suddenly needs the ER. When my sister lived with her as her caregiver, Linda would often need to go to the ER whenever Megan had a date or plans with friends. When my sister moved out and away from that situation, Linda called me to take her to the ER where she was in the next county, about an hour and a half and 11 towns away, even though her insurance covers ambulances. When I told her that if it was an emergency, an ambulance would get her seen faster, she told me, and anyone else who would listen, that I didn't love her. She insisted on that for nearly a month, so this time it was not some shocking sort of development. Anyway, my dad came to our place, made breakfast, and spent a little time with Megan. After breakfast was over, Linda called him. This was still during the window when, if there had been a party, it would have barely started, but after the breakfast, so she wasn't interrupting anything. She insisted he bring her overnight things to the hospital right then. I can see how there might have been some urgency. She uses a CPAP, and that was the primary item. That being said, from where I'm sitting, with her extensive history of manipulation, it very much looked like she was trying to interrupt what she thought was the birthday party. However, that wasn't the party. The largest friends and extended family event is this weekend. Linda doesn't and will not know about this one because of Linda's behavior through all of this. Everyone is invited except her and Paul, so that's where we are now. Megan got her quiet birthday breakfast and at-home dinner with just us. Linda tried to pull focus anyway, failed, and now the bigger celebration is happening without the two people who made the original small plan so stressful in the first place. Oh, and Paul is moving out. He has a place. Dad's space will be his own again, as much as it can be with Linda still living there. A clarification, since a few people had concerns, Dad is aware of what happened with Paul and Megan. To be clear, according to Megan, Paul never physically touched her. The issue was that he made inappropriate comments and advancements, repeatedly tried to get her alone, and came onto her despite knowing her history of trauma. At one point he acted as though he was going to kiss her, and she moved away. I don't trust him, and neither do Megan or Dad. Dad has been aggressively keeping him away from us. If Paul hadn't arranged to leave when he did, Dad was about to put him out of his butt. Unfortunately, there are also legal and property issues involved that make the situation more complicated than simply telling Linda and Paul to leave. From what I understand, Linda and my mother each owned half of the house, which means Dad and Linda now jointly own it. Dad has already involved a lawyer, and we'll see where things go from here. This will probably be my last update unless something major happens before the party this weekend. My family is finally starting the long process of healing. Because of Linda's behavior since Mom's death, The rest of the family is now finally on the same page about limiting or ending contact. Some circumstances make that process slower and more complicated than we'd like, but we're moving in that direction. I put up with Linda my entire life because I loved my mother more than I hated Linda. Between Mom's MH struggles and Linda's manipulation, a lot of things went unaddressed for a very long time. As painful as losing Mom has been, I'm hopeful that some healing can finally begin. And honestly, we probably should have listened to my uncle, Mom's brother, all along. He's been warning us about his cousin for longer than I've been alive. Update. I really thought my last update was going to be the final one. I said something big would probably happen, because that is how Linda operates. But I honestly thought it would be her and Paul trying to crash Megan's wife and friends and extended family birthday parties. No, Paul got arrested. I'm going to keep the details vague because I don't want this to turn into a legal knot. But from the public records I found, it does not look like he was arrested for something brand new this week. It looks like old, unresolved legal issues finally caught up with him. That said, some of those old records involve things that absolutely raise safety concerns, including a past domestic violence-related restraining order that he violated, drug, and long-standing unresolved warrants probation issues. So while I'm not claiming he did something new, I am even more comfortable with my original boundary. I do not want this man around Megan, and I do not appreciate being painted as cruel or controlling for trying to protect my sister. I appreciate all the validation of that choice and boundaries. Thank you. I'm so worried Linda will try putting the house up to get money for his bail. Luckily, our county has a lot of options to help protect the elderly from criminals that could take advantage of them financially. The family just had to fill up some paperwork. The question is, which paperwork and actions need done? Is it time to talk to a lawyer or a social worker? This has gotten much more complicated than I expected. Hopefully this is the final update for real. I am so done with him and her.